So I decided to walk around the encampment. This is the encampment here at University of Toronto, and this is a day after the university put up the notices of trespassing. It's very quiet inside the encampment. I think it's been like that for most of the time that it's been here, just very, very quiet. And there's just a sea of tents, like as far as the eye can see almost. Now, what's also really interesting is a lot of the tarp that was on the fences have been taken down. And that's been really interesting to see, because when I first came here just weeks ago, there was a lot of tarp sheltering the inside of the encampment. But now a lot of the tarp, as you can probably see in the background, so a lot of the tarp has been taken down. What's really interesting too is that, again, this is a day after the trespass notices have gone up. So technically, I guess I'm trespassing as well right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens in 48 hours. All of this is supposed to come down. And I'm just curious to see, again, what's going to happen. The sun's right in my face, so this terrible lighting. But what's also really interesting about the encampment, again, is just how quiet. It's really quiet. You know, when you see what you see in the news and what you see in the media is, I don't know, like definitely there's protests here. There's definitely, you know, large operations, large scale protests here, but it's not like chanting and a lot of noise right now. It's very quiet. Spray painted on the outside of some of the camps are Free Palestine, Cheers for Palestine, and other slogans. There's also, wow, the sun's really sharp right now. Sorry for the bad lighting. There's also like a library. There is a sacred fire that Indigenous students have put on as well. And again, just very quiet. Before I got in, actually, as soon as you arrive, you're told some of the policies and obviously acceptable behavior, acceptable actions. I'm not allowed to film any individual student, obviously, without consent. Goes without saying. But I generally, it's very peaceful inside here. Nothing over the top that I find. I like the fact that it's public. It's not barred off from the public from visiting the encampment, which is nice. But you know, it got me thinking a little bit about the future of Israel and Palestinian relations and the future of Israel and Palestinian policy. You know, I think for the longest time our leaders have done such a great disservice to that conflict by siding almost unanimously with one country over another. And regardless of what you think of the encampment, I think the debate or the conversation on Israel and Palestine has just fundamentally changed as a result. I don't think that conservatives or liberals or university presidents can actually go back to business and how it was when it comes to this debate. I think it's garnered so much attention. But I do wonder about the future. So the three main calls from the protesters have been to first to disclose, second to divest, and third to denounce, I think, companies that are complicit in the genocide. Again, very loaded terms. Do you think those policy demands are going to go away? You know, the University of Toronto also has a website with faculty that are supportive of this encampment. And I think there's like hundreds of names or dozens of names there of faculty. So this debate, I don't think is going to go anywhere. I think it's going to continue. The question is, what is the solution? What is the pathway forward? Is there a middle ground that the universities can strike with the protesters? It'll be interesting too to see what the university president says about the protests as well. You know, there is the working group that has been established, but I do think that this whole debate has fundamentally altered the Israel-Palestine conversation. I do think that organizations, companies, universities will have to really think about their investment portfolios. And this is a very different opinion than what I had just a few weeks ago. We have to remember that For the longest time, our political leaders have sometimes blindly sided with Israel or have not been so quick to denounce Israel's actions. And I think coming out of these protests, that will fundamentally change. And I wonder here in Canada, we've got Trudeau, who's at historical lows in popularity, but Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservatives, has openly announced his unwavering support for Israel. Well, I think there's a lot of conservative voters who don't agree with Israel, but would probably not tell Poilievre that. So this whole debate is perhaps throwing our politics into a whole new realm as well. So I wonder moving forward, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, what their stance, what their perspectives will be on the Israel-Palestine debate. I don't think moving forward it's going to be as palatable to state open support for just Israel and what it's doing. I don't think that's going to be palatable moving forward. I think there's a real movement here for the people of Palestine and what's happening right now in the Gaza Strip. The last point I'll make on this whole encampment is the very interesting position that this encampment is in. It is talking about a free Palestine, but there's no discussion, a robust discussion, on the politics and the government of both the PLO and Hamas, which is desperately needed. And when movements get this large, as you can see behind me, it gets harder and harder for the organizers and protesters to denounce some of the actions inside the encampment or by protesters themselves. People who are saying things that are anti-Semitic, anti-Israeli, anti-Zionist, get lost in the debate of the Palestinian people. And so while I can't interview individual students and protesters here without some kind of NDA, I hope this tour has provided you some sense of how the encampment looks inside U of T here. Could be one of the last people to film inside the encampment before Monday. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and what happens as a result of Monday as well. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to keep posting links and everything below for you to check out, including links that the protesters have also put up, reading material, etc., for you to read more about their specific acts. So thanks again, and thanks for watching.